You are. Yes, he is. Maybe not as well.
I'm here to speak on behalf of the Anti-War Working Group of the New York City Democratic Socialists of America. We fully condemn Russia's illegal and unjust invasion of Ukraine. Russia has already violated the United Nations Charter and the most basic laws of war. We call on the Russian military to immediately end their invasion and fully withdraw from Ukraine. This is the only safe path to peace. Without it, we fear that Russia's war of aggression can only escalate past its already disastrous state. Scenes from Ukraine invoke for me memories of the U.S. invasions of Iraq and Afghanistan. We know how swiftly our government declared victory there, and how swiftly that victory became a prolonged occupation, which immiserated the region. We pray that the people of Ukraine will be spared the same fate. We also fear the possibility that further escalations in Ukraine could come not only from Russia, but from our own government. Unlike the people of Russia and Ukraine, our leaders and those of us descended from the American settlers have never experienced a war of aggression. And we have suffered least under the boot of militarism, and yet now command and give their voice to the biggest boot in the history of the world. It is my fear that in so doing we have come to understand justice only through the application of that boot. We hear of justice now in the economic sanctions levied against Russia's central bank, and we know the effects of this kind of economic warfare. We have seen it already in Iran, in Cuba, in Venezuela, to name just a few. We understand that the most vulnerable people, the working class, women, children, and ethnic minorities are the ones hurt most by these economic sanctions. The Russian people did not call for this war. Many thousands are right now applying all their effort to pull us back from the brink of a global conflict and an unimaginable catastrophe. We must remember these people and this catastrophe when we hear calls for U.S. and NATO intervention. Direct military confrontation between two nuclear powers has always been and must remain off the table. That includes any calls for a no-fly zone. However well-intentioned they may be, a no-fly zone would mean NATO planes shooting down Russian aircraft over Ukraine. It is a declaration of war concealed in the language of peace, and a terrible abuse of language. But while NATO says it will not charge ahead into this nightmarish scenario, they continue to rally their troops as if preparing for an even wider war that would have no winners. Why is it that even as the first dominoes begin to fall, our leaders are still setting more along the path to annihilation? For decades we have seen this crisis brewing, and for decades we have known the steps that the U.S. and the Western powers could take to end and de-escalate and avoid where we are now. But now we must admit that it is not obvious what will end the fighting in Ukraine. Yet this should only strengthen our commitment to earnest diplomacy with all parties.
You guys are going to go.
It is reprehensible that Joe Biden said he has no plans to meet with Putin. That now is not the moment for it. Now is exactly the moment. This is hardly the first conflict where the people with the power to end it have been condemnable and guilty of war crimes. There is no It is the behavior of one who knows only how to apply the boot and who has forgotten how to remove it. Solidarity with the people of Ukraine and the people of Russia. Our only enemy is capitalism and all of the oligarchs and armies that it has created. No war but class war. No war.
Michael Swine.
Now Michael Swing from Labor Against War.